Shalom. Call halal Yahweh Bashem Abishai, Bahashem Rakwa Kodash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders. Salutations to all my fellow laborers, the Yakim, the confusion of face, Yakim joined unto our ranks. The hopefully elect and the Akwaf that are listening and learning to you, I say Shalom. I was watching a video. It was either yesterday or yesterday. The Apostle Tahar was doing a video, and he said something that put it on my spirit to do this video. So yesterday the spirit wasn't on me to do this particular video, but today it was, so I'm going to do it. Because I'm very intrigued by the Apocrypha. The Apocrypha actually, you know, the Lord used, Yahweh Bashem Abishai actually used the Apocrypha to help draw me into this truth. Because I was such a, one of my favorite subjects when I was a young man was history. And that was something I always did really well with in school. And even in grammar school, I saw things in history that it didn't seem like was being taught. And I was always challenging history or being very vocal against colonialism, even as in grade school, going back to grade school. Because they would, you know, talk about how they came to a land and they found this and they found that. And then knowing and understanding that they didn't find anything. They came in and took things by force through theft, thievery, murder. And I was pointing this out as a child and was very vocal about it and would often get into debates with my friends who was just like, you know, get over it, man. I was like, no, man, you uplifting these people like they're so great, and all they did was stole everything, and then they signed their names to inventions and things and lands and properties that were not their own, and then they're proud about it. And so I had a problem with history the way it was taught, all the way up until I had a high school teacher my senior year who actually started teaching about the dark races in the Middle East originally. Which is, you know, help bring me to the point to everything happens, man. You know, it's amazing the way Yahweh Bashem Abishai operates. Everything happens for a reason, man. And even though he was off, you know, with that African stuff, because were there Africans in the Middle East? Yes, there were. The land of Canaan. So-called Africans, I should say, because the word Africa is a Latin word, which is the language of Esau, Edom, the Edomites. And Africa is named after a so-called white man named Scipio Africanus. All right, that's what it was renamed. Okay, but the land where Israel and Palestine sits is the land of Ham. All right, and Ham's sons Canaan. As a matter of fact, I am holding on to the Young's Dictionary Bible. The Young's, because I'm going to read some things about the Apocrypha. Real quick, I'm just going to go over this breakdown of the Hasmonean priests and kings, who were the Maccabees, all the way up until Herod took over. All right, I'm going to touch on that. But before I do that, I'm going to go to the definition of Ham. Okay? Which I actually will put on the screen so that you can actually see it for yourself after I read it. And it says, Ham, a son of Noah, father of Cush, put in Canaan, see further on these four, while they all may have been dark-skinned, okay? So these are the inhabitants of Africa and Canaan, all right? They were not the forefathers of the Negroid races, and there's 12 Negroid races. We call them the 12 tribes, all right? But rather of the peoples associated with Egypt in the north of the continent of Africa. Egypt thought of Canaan as one of its provinces, even into the very late times. All right, so I'm going to actually put that on the screen. All right, it says the son of Noah, father of Cush, put Canaan, see further on each of these four, while they all may have been dark-skinned. So those are the Africans. Let me flip the page. They were not the forefathers of the Negroid races, but rather the people associated in the north of the continent of Africa. So what they're telling you is that the Negroid races that were living in the north of Africa, they weren't related to them. And that was the people, those were your Israelites, the Negroids, because they never break down who the Negroids are. The Negroes are. So you mean is this a whole nother race of people that's not mentioned in the Bible? Okay? So by definition, they expose themselves because they're telling you that Negroes are not Africans. Okay? All right, so anyway, the reason why the Apocrypha is so important because it contains the history of the captivity during the Greekish Empire. All right, when the Greeks came into power, because when you read the Bible, you go from the Old Testament, you have the history of the Babylonian captivity, the history in Egypt, history in Babylon, all right, the Persian Medes. Then it goes straight to the Roman Empire. The history of that third kingdom that's spoken of, which is very important, is left out because that tells you when the Israelites became Greeks, began to be called Greeks. So when you get to the New Testament, where it's reading Greek this and Greek that, there's no difference between a Jew or a Gentile. I'll give you an example. This is Acts 9:29. And it says, he spake boldly in the name of the Lord Yahushua and disputed against the Grecians, but they went about to slay him. Now in my book, I'm going to show you in my Bible that my precept. It precepts Acts 6:1 as well. All right. So it says he's speaking to the Grecians. Now let's look that word up in this dictionary. All right. So I'm going to look up Grecian and watch what it tells you. And it's going to give you those same scriptures, two scriptures, the one I read and the one that it was labeled next to it. It says Grecian Jews. Hellenists were Greek-speaking Jews. So they weren't talking to Greeks as in Edomites. They were talking to Greek-speaking Jews. How did they become Hellenists? And that history is contained in the Apocrypha. They were in contrast to the group of Christians and likely spake Aramaic and possibly they spoke Hebrew. Since the word Hellenist was not used by any writer prior to Luke, the author of Acts, it is not known if Hellenists also practiced Greek customs and Greek practices, and they did. Hellenists were basically Israelites who took on Greek customs, etc., etc. All right. So, and the Apocrypha, what the Apocrypha does is it completely is what you could refer to as a racist book, because it makes it clear that the Lord is not for everybody in the Apocrypha. Very, very clear. So it also lets you know that the Northern Kingdom came here to the Americas. It names the Romans as Edomites. It identifies the conversion of Greeks into when the Edomites were actually conquered by the Hasmoneans and were forced to convert and follow our ways, and that's began to call themselves Jewish. It identifies the Edomites through Alexander, and you can trace Alexander and his four generals and their people that came and conquered North Africa, the so-called Middle East, and most of Europe at that time. They can be traced back to Esau, Edom, via the Apocrypha. The Apocrypha was a very damaging book to the so-called white man, which is why he removed it, because it identified who he was. And then he says that it was never canonized. Well, when you go into the Blue Letter Bible, which is used to break down every word in the Bible, and the Blue Letter will tell you, just like the word Immaculate Conception, just like that word, the word canonized does not exist. It's not in the Bible. Those are man-made doctrines, man-made things. Okay? So let's read some history. This is First Maccabees, the first chapter, and I'm going to start at verse 38. All right. And it reads, insomuch as the inhabitants of Jerusalem fled because of them, because Edomites were killing and destroying, taking over. All right. The inhabitants of Jerusalem fled because of them, whereupon the city was made a habitation of strangers, and became strange to those who were born in her, and her own children left her. So that's when we became strangers. That's Isaiah 56 and 6. All right. If I'm not mistaken, let me wait. I said it, so let me look to be sure. I want to make sure I didn't say something that was wrong. So let me go and check that. Yes, also the sons of the strangers that joined themselves to Yahweh to serve him and love on the name of Yahweh to be servants, every one that keepeth the Sabbath from polluting it, taketh hold to my covenant. Right, so you can't take a hold to the covenant if you're not an Israelite, period. So yeah, I was correct on that. So Israel became strangers, all right? It says in verse 39, her sanctuary was laid waste like the wilderness, her feasts were turned into mourning, her Sabbaths into reproach, her honor into contempt. It had been her glory. So were her dishonor increased, and her excellency was turned into mourning. Moreover, King Antiochus, an Edomite, all right, wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people. That's kind of like democracy. Democracy, rule of the demon. Demo meaning demon, crazy meaning rule. All right. It says everyone should leave her laws. All right. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. Yeah, many of the Israelites consented to his religion and sacrificed unto idols and profaned the Sabbath. For the king sent letters by messengers into Jerusalem and in the cities of Judah that they should follow the strange laws of the land and forbid the offering of the sacrifice and drink the offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbaths and festival days and pollute the sanctuary and holy people and set up altars and groves and chapels, idols, sacrifice swine flesh, unclean beasts, that they should leave their children uncircumcised and make their souls abominable for the manner of cleanness and profanation. All right. So basically, let me read the next one. That to the end that they may forget the law and change all the ordinances. All right. Whosoever would not do according to the commandment, the king, he said, should die. So lots of Israelites died and chose death. That's what made the Maccabees rise up. Because you still had a people who had the zeal for the Lord. The 2/3, just like they sold out Yahushua roughly around 400 years later when he came on the scene. All right. If I'm not mistaken, don't quote me on it, but I know it's pretty close. It was like 400 something years. All right. Before it happened. So you had that time period of Israel not being called Israel anymore. So in a 400-year period, even a 300-year period, how long would it, you have not called on your name, you've not circumcised your children, you're getting tattoos, strange haircuts, strange body markings, strange foods, you no longer know that you're an Israelite. That's why Paul was sanctioned to go to the Gentiles, to the Greeks. All right? And the so-called white man knew this. So when he made translations, he could have easily, where he put Greek and Gentile, he could have put the word Hellenist there when they printed the Bibles up, but they didn't. But this was also to be a stumbling block so many wouldn't get it. Because not even all Israel is going to get it and understand this, because not all Israel is Israel. So the Lord didn't mean for it to happen. All right? You get to the New Testament, and now you had, and that's what they did. You just jumped to the New Testament and Herod. How did Herod get there? Herod got there because of the Hasmoneans, the Maccabees. All right? So I'm going to read this. It says, Hasmonean priest kings, 167, 166. John, Simon, 143. This is BC to 135 BC. Judas, 167 BC to 161 BC. Eleazar, Jonathan, 161 to 144 BC. All right. Then you had the next line. was Judas John Hyrcanus. All right, 135 to 105, and John Hyrcanus' death is mentioned in the Apocrypha. All this is in secular history. As a matter of fact, it's got 2 whole pages of the history of the Hasmoneans, which is all found in your encyclopedias. All this information is there. This is in secular history, this information. All right? From Mattathias all the way down to his grandsons. All right? So we're at John Hyrcanus. Now we're at Mattathias. His daughter married Ptolemy. His daughter married one of the Ptolemies, man. Okay? And then after the conversion, he was the one that converted the so-called the white man Edomites to Judaism. That's in secular history. All right. Then you had and his daughter married one of them, which he ended up dying as a result of it. All right. So now you have these Edomites calling themselves Jewish. All right. So you got Aristobulus, Antigonus, Alexander Genenaeus, and he married Alexandra. Then you had Hyrcanus II. Alexandra married Alexander, daughter of Hyrcanus, son of Aristobulus. All right. And Miriam married Herod the Great. And then it says the end of the Hasmonean dynasty. All right. So once again, that's that Negro woman sold us out. It's true. Same way they were selling out the Southern Kingdom on the slave ships and on the plantations. All right. And not totally to their own fault, because the Lord set it up to be like that. But once you're aware of it, you think you turn back and stop being that way and try to change your ways. All right. But there it is, man. You know, just a brief history just to prove some points, the authenticity of this book. It always belonged in the Bible. That's why in the 1611 is there. And you had the Bible Destruction Group, which operated for 100 years. I forget the exact years. I used to remember it, but I know it was from the 1700s to the 1800s, and they finally succeeded in removing the Apocrypha from the Bible, because it just goes to show you it's clear and evidence through the action that Esau was trying to hide his identity and hide himself. And, you know, and then what happened during that time too in the 1700s? In the 1681, they were labeled white, so they had a new, you know, it was written into law that they were now so-called white people. So they had that to hide under, and then, you know, and then they formulated doctrines and science, pseudoscience, and all sorts of things. They tried to attach Darwinism to the Bible by attaching that to Ham, Shem, and Japheth, you know. So people get all confused about, you know, stuff as a result of that. But, you know, that's about it. I don't want to go too much deeper. Just wanted to, you know, because this could easily turn into a 5-hour lesson with 5 or 6 parts. Start reading all that history on the Hasmoneans. All right. But, you know, I just want to give all praises, glory, and honor unto Yahweh Shalom Shai. Double honors unto the apostles. Wah, ba, ba, ba.